Good evening and welcome to an episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. I'm your host, Dorothy O'Dell. I'm not sure if you've ever checked out our Roku or YouTube channel, but please go check us out, subscribe, share with all your friends so that we can get more people watching this amazing content and these amazing people that join us week after week. And tonight I am truly blessed to bring to the stage Donna Chamara. Did I say that right?
Chimera.
Chimera, I'm sorry. And you are a soul teacher. I love that. Soul teacher. Before we get into finding out how you started being a soul teacher, that's my take on it. If you could share a little bit about yourself, Donna, and then we'll go from there.
I am a everyday person. I've been a single mom. And while I was a single mom, I was a corporate traveler. And literally raising my daughter on my own from the time she was about a year old, and was in various fields, education. I was a high school teacher for a while, and then I taught GED and adult ed classes at community college, and then took a leap of faith and took a job in Texas, and began a career in corporate marketing and healthcare marketing, and did that for a while and lost a little bit of faith in how Western medicine does things, the business of Western medicine, and moved to Colorado and started studying brain training and accelerative learning. And it was during that period of time that I really began to do more one-on-one coaching with people, started making oil blends, wrote a book, was made into a play. A lot of things happened when I stepped away from what I was hating and moved toward something. I didn't even know what I was moving toward. I just knew I was moving toward something better. And everybody thought I was nuts, but I'm a happy nut. So
you said something so profound. When you moved away from something that was no longer keep getting you happy, that's when your life completely changed. Sometimes you hear those stories and you're like, well, how did you take that leap of faith? Like, what was your deciding factor that's saying, I'm no longer going to stay in this position, no longer?
Because where I was, I had a great job. But it was in Texas, and I was tired of the plateau weather. I mean, there's only one weather in Texas, and I missed the Midwest. I missed having seasons, because seasons help you. It's a natural rhythm, and helps you with the passage of time and, rhythms that are important in life. And an opportunity came and went to this accelerative learning school, and they offered me a job. I was there. And very funny, because the employer who sent me, he's like, oh my God, what did I do? I sent you, you learned this, and then you're leaving me. And then he went to the school and he said, I see why you did it. He said, this is where you belong.
That's super. Yes. Oh, well, that's awesome. And thank you for sharing that. It's just, a lot of people stay in situations and places and they're like, why did I stay there for like 20, 30 years when I could have been a lot happier? I don't know why I can't talk tonight. Taking that leap of faith. So I love that. Now, when we talked before the show, in the pre-interview, you had said something pretty profound that, there's lots that we can talk about tonight, but God had laid something on your heart, and it's part of your overcoming story. So if you wanted to get into your overcoming story.
Quite some time ago, I was in a very freak accident and was life flighted to a trauma level 1 hospital, 1,000 miles away from everyone. And I was in there for 30 days, and it was obviously life-changing for my physicality, but also in what I understood about how life works, and literally how the life form, the physical body works, as well as circumstances that and people and weird things that happened, and then good things happened. And it always ended good, even though in the moment it was horrific and painful and, and all that, the good that came from it is where I am now, is why I am here, is why I'm alive now. Yeah.
I love that. I think we get into different situations in life where we're not sure why, but when everything's revealed, it's like, oh, in everything that I have overcome, it's always so that I can either empathize with somebody or help somebody through it. Right? Would you agree with that?
That's absolute truth. Absolute truth. That for everybody, when you go through the toughest moments in your life, that if we know ahead of time, we are going to get through it, and trust that we are going to get through it, then the answer of why it happened, or why it happened the way it happened, or why now, becomes really clear. And because when what happened to me happened, it was definitely a crisis in faith, where I said, where did God go? Literally, where did God go? Because I was alone in that hospital, no one to advocate for me, drugged up. They were doing things I didn't know what they were doing, making decisions, for me. And so one of the things that happened is I really began to self-advocate, because I'd always told other people that I was always the protector. I was always the peacemaker. I was always the one cheering people on. And there was nobody there to cheer me on. Eventually there was. But in those first awful days, it was me, and people that kind of floated in and out.
How did that feel to have to be like your own advocate? Like you said, no one was there. So having to self-advocate, even though I know we're all really good teachers and we'll say, hey, you should be advocating for yourself. But then when it comes down for us to actually do that, did you find that hard for yourself, like difficult?
It was, except that I'm my mother's daughter and I'm stubborn. And when I know something is right or something is wrong, I will do everything, and I don't care how drugged up I am, to make sure that the right thing, it is happening. And for instance, I wouldn't let them give me pain medication anymore, like after 5 a.m, because when the doctor came, I was loopy otherwise. And I told them, I said, they said, you got to stay ahead of the pain. You got to stay ahead of the pain. I said, I want to talk to the doctor. I want him to hear my voice and, understand that I have thoughts, and I have, I can tell you more than you just looking at my body. I can tell you more about my body. And so I refused that particular section of pain medication. And then another thing, it was a teaching hospital that they took me to because of the injuries. And when the doctor would come around, I would hear him, the way he would talk to the students about me is I was bed A, and bed A, fractured pelvis, blah, blah, and he listed all the things that were wrong. And then once my head was clear and he did that, I said, wait a minute. And they all looked at me and I said, I am not bed A. My name is Donna Chamara. I'm a mother. I have family. I have friends. I had a career. I am not bed A. An interesting thing that happened, that doctors started watering up.
Oh, yeah.
So it was indeed a teaching hospital, a teaching moment for them to learn something about empathy and understanding. Right. That you're more than the diagnosis that's written on your chart, or the prognosis. Sadly, sometimes it's written on a chart.
I love that. You're right. And every hospital that you go to, even here in Canada, it goes by beds, and then it does have the first name on the whiteboard, and then what bed it is. So you're right. That would be a teaching moment for them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Wow. So how long were you in the hospital for?
30 days there, 30 days.
That's right, 30 days. Wow.
Yep.
And made a full recovery.
Yes, way beyond what anyone ever thought, you know, and wrote down and expected, and you know, kind of the protocols that was outlaid of the way things theoretically happened, you know. And because I one of the things I did is when I was at, people would ask me, what do you want me to send you? And so I had them send me my essential oils. And so I had because I make my own blends, and I had them, I picked out certain ones and told them to send it. And the nurses said they loved to come into my room because it always smelled so good. They said, we don't know what you're doing or where you're putting that, but you really smell good. I mean, this room smells good. It just feels good to come in here.
Right. Well, yeah, you know, and some people really don't understand. I know some people have never even heard of oils and things like that. And personally, myself, I've never, up until about the last 10 years, I didn't even know anything about it. So would you say they have healing properties as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you look back in the scriptures or any holy book, they talk about oils, you know, and because that's what they had access to in the early times, before all the pharmaceuticals and all the fake stuff was made. They used plants and oil, plants and trees and flowers and whatever, to make tinctures, to make healing potions, you know, and that's what they use, you know, in the Egyptian tombs, when they open up the sarcophaguses, whatever, how that is plural, there are vials of oil in there, you know, that was sent with the pharaoh or the pharaoh's family or whoever on their journey, you know, as a healing tool. And so I'm a very left brain person. And it wasn't until I went to the Accelerative Learning Center that I really tapped more into the right brain self and started studying. But I'm very scientific in my approach. It's a prove it. Where's the study? Where's the whatever? And then I'll try it. And I never recommend anything unless I've tried it and it's worked on me. And I can say, this worked on me. I don't know what it'll mean for you. This worked for me. And people make their decision.
I love that. I love that. So now we go from the hospital. So when you came out, what happened after that?
Well, it was hard getting out because because of the types of injury, I couldn't be flown and I couldn't be driven. So their brilliant plan was to put me in a nursing home in Washington. Ooh. And so when some of my friends found out, one is a naturopath, she and a horse friend hopped in the car, and they charged into into the ward and said, you are not taking her anywhere, we're taking her home, and blah blah blah. So they did this whole big rescue scene, but they couldn't take me home either because of what the mess my body was. Right. And so, but what they did do is help talk to the social workers and make a plan. And so prior to their coming to the rescue, though, I wanted to give, if it's okay, an example of how we think we did something wrong or somebody did something wrong and it turns out right. Mm-hmm. That because of the incident, I had a closed head injury. And so it was hard for me. I couldn't read. I couldn't do emails. I couldn't do all the things as a businesswoman I wanted to be doing, and thought, oh, finally, I'll get to catch up on my emails. Well, no, you can't read. Or finally, I get to read a book. No, you can't read. And so I had to do a lot more thinking. And I called home and I asked my significant other, I said, find my burgundy address book and send it to me. So he did. Well, the burgundy address book he sent was like 10 years old, not my current one. And so I was like frustrated and, whatever. And then when I was flipping through it, I realized that in that address book were all the people that I knew from a time when I worked in Seattle on helping to build a retreat center. And so there were 4 or 5 people there that I called. Every one of them came to visit. And one was a woman who I met at a retreat in Montana when I was doing body work, who lived in Seattle, who came to see me, right?
Oh, wow.
And then one of the ladies who came, Joni, she said, "Do you remember so-and-so?" And I said, no, because my head wasn't like working right. And I said, no, I don't. And she said, well, she came to your retreat. She looked like this. And, vaguely I saw, I could think of her. And Joni said, well, do you know what she does now? And I said, no. She said, well, she's one of the lead social workers in this hospital.
Wow.
Yeah. And so she finally became an advocate for me and said, this lady can't go to a nursing home. She needs to get home. We got to find a way to get her home. And so she intervened and helped get some temporary funding and, all kinds of stuff. So that mistaken wrong address book was the perfect thing for me in that moment.
I love that. I think everything always works out for a reason, right? That has been my philosophy. There's no way in this earth that we could possibly go through what we go through and not have something good about it on the other side. So I love that you said that a simple request that was a mistake, but turned out to be one of the best things that could ever have happened. That is so true. So true. So you finally got home, I'm asserting. And how was the recovery and the journey from there?
Well, it was interesting because my significant other, right before, literally like the week before all this happened, was offered a new job and was supposed to start on the day that he had to be in the hospital with me. And so, but I didn't want him to lose that job or that job opportunity. I said, just go, I'll figure it out. So I had this whole army of women who showed up, and they organized a schedule so that when I got home, there was 24/7 coverage with me for 2 weeks until a friend from Colorado and then another friend from LA could come and spend 2 weeks with me. So he didn't have to worry about me, but where I could be safe and get back and forth to my appointments. And it was very, very hard for me to accept that help and to let people see me in such a vulnerable position. In the hospital, when I was first in there, it took 5 people to turn me.
Wow.
Yeah. And so after the period of time when I got home, it was still dicey, and I had to be very careful and they had to be careful. And but we made it work until I could. I progressed fast once I got back to Montana. And interestingly, the doctor who saw the orthopedic surgeon who saw me back in Montana said, "Do you know who was working on you in Seattle?" I said, "No, I don't know, no clue." He said, "He's one of the preeminent hip and pelvis specialists in the United States, who happened to be on some type of a rotation there." And it was that doctor who personally called this orthopedic surgeon to say, take her case. She doesn't have any money, because that was before we had affordable care and all that.
Right.
And he did. And then the Montana guy said, well, we're opening up a new clinic and we could trade some of your marketing time. I said, okay. Because marketing is my background.
Right.
So, I mean, isn't it crazy? You couldn't write a script that anybody would believe that all kind of sorted out the way it did.
Right. What is that? Serendipity?
Serendipity.
Where everything aligns, right? And so anybody watching this think that, okay, there isn't something other than ourselves at work. Either if they don't believe in God, or they don't believe in the universe, or they don't believe in something, there is a higher power out there doing some kind of work, because there's no way that all that just happens with nothing behind the scenes, in my opinion.
I think that the same force that makes planets go around on the elliptical, and that we are a specific distance from each other, and we are a specific distance from the sun, that same intelligence is what we can tap into for our daily orbits, our daily elliptical, our constellation, our movement through this turn of the medicine wheel, as my native friends would say.
Absolutely. And the planets just aligned recently. So there is that. I'm feeling the cosmic force today. But anyways, it's funny. I was texting one of my tribe, and I said, this and this and this all happened within a 24-hour period. So I thought I was good, because I had 3 things happen. And I was just like, I was good. Well, then I come home and the 4th thing happened. And of course, my mom lives an hour away, and she fell. Her first words are, "I'm okay, but this happened." And I'm just like, head first into the floor. I'm just like, seriously, like I just left you less than 24 hours ago. and then she hurt herself. But I mean, you know what? Things happen, and there has to be a reason for it. And we don't know at this point, but who knows? But everything works out.
After that, for a while, when I got back, it was very much, what am I going to do? Because I had lost so much momentum. When you are in business for yourself and you have, your clients and whatever, 30 days away is a lot to be away. And then to get my brain working again, my speech was fine, but it was literally, still being able to read and think things out that way. And so people that were clients in other ways had me make oil blends, or had me come out and design their garden for them, or, that other ways of, the income coming in. And the other thing that happened is that they did a fundraiser for me and paid my mortgage for a couple of months. And I mean, where things were taken care of in ways I could never have imagined. I could not imagine how I was going to get through the financial disaster that a major medical, event does to anyone without formal insurance or, an employer, whatever. So it worked out. It wasn't easy, but I can tell you there was one bill that was a big bill. I mean, like $80,000 bill. One bill was $80,000. And so I was very diligent and very responsible, little Catholic girl, in paying, everybody that I'm supposed to pay. And they might only get $10. So for like 2 years, I was paying on that. And one day the bill didn't come. And I'm good little girl that I am, I called their department and said, your statement didn't come. And I just want you to know it didn't come. And that's the only reason I'm not paying it. And there was silence on the other end of the phone. And I'm like, uh-oh, did I say or do something? And this lady just very, very calmly, quietly said, we've wiped that bill.
Wow. That's amazing.
So I think that I also think that social worker probably intervened in some way and let them know my situation, because legally, as long as I kept paying $25 a month or whatever, that would drag out for 30 years. And so there's hospitals have so much they can write off for charity or charitable or whatever the word is. And I was one of that.
That's amazing. So anybody out there that doesn't have, I call it my tribe. And it sounds to me like you have a lot of people in your corner. So to me, that's kind of like a tribe of people that, are willing to help you out no matter what. And it sounds like you have a pretty amazing support system and things like that. And would you agree that that helps a long way in any recovery to anything? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. To accept help, and don't think that there's only certain people or certain ways you can get help. Be open to the help you need, the perfect help that you need at the perfect time when you need it, and swallow your pride and say, yeah, I could use some help.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. We all do. We all do. It takes more courage to accept help, I think, than to live in pain and denial and poverty. And I mean, that's just silly. As my friend, and I have an 80-year-old friend and stuff like that. She said, well, that's just silly. And so she would say, that's just silly. If you have access to help and they're offering it, no strings attached, get out of your own way and accept it.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so then it says here in my notes here that you're a breakthrough strategist. So so you've gone through that. I'm asserting you're back to work now. Did you go from healing from the car accident to being a breakthrough strategist, or how did that become about?
I kept my left brain work because I did the marketing, and I worked for almost 18 years with Native nonprofits, and I love that population. I love helping them. And my mission refined itself to that where I work with individuals or organizations who are trying to make a positive difference in the world. That literally that's what their company is about, their nonprofit is about, or their personal vision is, that they're here to add on to and make it a better world. And so what I realized when I was in the hospital, and for a while after that, when I was still working through being mad at God and all that, that I felt stuck. First, I felt stuck in a bed, and then I felt stuck in a wheelchair, and then I felt stuck in a walker, and then I felt most stuck in people's perceptions of how I should be responding to what happened to me. It started in the hospital when they had their protocols and their whatever, and I questioned everything, and obviously, did what I wanted to whenever I could. Right. And then when I got home, and I think this is really interesting for people who are family members of somebody that's in a post-trauma situation, is don't hold them in your vision of what recovery should look like, of what someone who's gone through trauma, what their path should be or could be, or they read that it should be.
Right.
Let the individual find their way, support them in finding their way. But and that became so clear to me when years after the incident happened, I'd see someone who I hadn't seen in years, and they would say, oh, and looking good and looking fine and moving relatively well. And they would say, oh, I'll never forget when I walked in the front door and you were laying on the couch. You looked so little and vulnerable. And that's how they would say. And I'm like, well, yeah, that was 3 years ago. And this is what I'm doing now. But they energetically, if people energetically are projecting onto you that you are weak, or that you should be weak, or that you should be falling apart, or that you should be not fighting, you shouldn't be arguing, or don't talk back to the doctor. When you are surrounded by too much of that, you can buy into it. And so that's why, when I think of self-advocating, you self-advocate for yourself too. When you say, you know what, I thank you for your sincere, concern. And this is where I'm at now. Ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you help people get unstuck, helping organizations and individuals get unstuck to share their gifts.
And what I have found is that, yeah,
cool,
right. More specifically now, I'm finishing up a lot of contracts with organizations, but more specifically now I'm working with individual women who feel stuck. And usually they're stuck in one of three areas: in vocation, in relationship, or a health scenario or a diagnosis that they don't know how to navigate through. And so what I do is to help with whether it's one-on-one in a program or whatever, help them first identify where they're stuck, how to get unstuck, and how to move forward, at the pace and in a way that works for them.
Right. So tell me about Soul Teaches then. So how did you come up with the name Soul Teaches?
Well, can we get a little esoteric here?
Sure.
There were 3 times during that whole event when I could have chosen to leave, and I didn't. I literally could have chosen to leave, and I didn't. And one time I was laying in the hospital bed and had been sleeping. So I don't know if this was a vision, dream, or whatever. But when I opened my eyes, on either side of the bed of where I was, there was like light being. I don't know what other word to use. And between them, across the bed, the old-fashioned scrolls like you see, in the Bible or whatever,
Yeah.
where they're like got gold handles, right?
Yeah.
And it was like going into my body, and I'm like, oh, this is really weird. Is this morphine, or am I half dreaming? What is this? And I said, are you healing me? And they said, no, we're recording how you're healing yourself so others can learn from you. That's what Soul teaches.
Wow. That's profound.
Yeah. And so that was where the seed of that was planted. And it took me a while to decide to say that out loud. I don't consider myself a soul teacher. I help people reach their own soul to see what their soul has to teach them. That higher wisdom, that greater wisdom has to teach them. I'm the conduit.
That is profound, and it's not the norm.
I know. That's why I don't talk about it very often, but you,
but
the place to do it.
Yeah, well, okay. So, and I'm only saying that because I would say within the last year, God has really put a lot of this, something like that in my path, right? Like going inward. Like we as a society, we want to just everything handed to us, meaning, oh, so this is the problem. How do I fix it? They want an automatic fix, right? But yet everything I am hearing for the last year is go inward. You have all the answers. It's going back to number one, trusting yourself again, trusting spirits, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe in. I personally believe in God. So it's just really intuitively taking that step back to take a step forward. Because, for decades, I would always believe what was being told to me. And now it's just like, wait a minute, when did you quit trusting yourself in certain situations? Now, for me, I know when I quit trusting myself, there's a lot of things that had happened. But I mean, learning to trust yourself again and listen intuitively to what your body's trying to tell you. Because it's funny, so I met up with a new dietitian last week, and it's intuitive eating. She says every diet culture, 95% of all diets fail. She goes, if you just listen to your body
Absolutely.
And just listen to what your body is actually trying to tell you, you don't need a diet. Think of health instead of losing weight. And so if I apply those same principles, look inward, see what, what you want to do, what your soul is telling you. You just got to listen. And sometimes the noise in here is
So it's so funny what you're saying, because I'm sorry. There, we have a little bit of a delay, so I'm sorry if I was talking over you. I didn't mean to.
no, that's okay.
That a new program that I'm rolling out is called the Wisdom Strategy. And the whole thing is, like you just said, the whole script, trusting yourself, listening to your body, that, and literally that's one of the things I have in the thing is trust your body, calm your mind, focus your energy, and trust your body.
Well, and it's funny because, the first I heard about that was, I would say 3 years ago. And I'm like, what is this woo-woo shit? Like, seriously, as somebody who, the background and the family that I come from, if a doctor didn't say it, or if it's not in the newspaper or in the news, then it can't be true. Right. That's how my dad, that was my dad's thought process. And anything outside of that was just ridiculous. Right. And so why would you even bother talking or thinking in such a way? And it literally, every time I turn around, in this last year, it's been, no, go inward, trust yourself, trust everything. And the moment I go against what is in I call it my gut or intuition, it's like, it doesn't work. But the moment the moment by moment that I keep trusting myself, things unravel in a good way. For instance, I'm like, okay, say I lost my wallet. I'm like, where's my wallet? God, just show me. And then I'll get like a vision of a drawer. And yet I'm like, well, that's insane. Why would you even think to tell me there? Right. And so I'll look everywhere else but the drawer. Then I'm like, okay, fine. I'll go to the drawer, and boom, there it is. So why do we do that? Why do we just go not trust ourselves and just think that that's quote unquote stupid? And just why do we do that?
Because it was what we were taught by people who were taught what they were taught. And it's why my focus now is so specifically on women, because I think women are more open-minded. They know about intuition, they know about gut instinct, and they are the primary raisers, caregivers of the children who are going to be running the world.
True.
Who are inheriting the world. And so with this whole big AI stuff that's going on, where, how do we trust it? How do we know it's real? If now we learn how to trust our instinct, how to follow our body, what our body's telling us, and we teach our children that is a wisdom strategy. That is a tool for life for them. So that no matter what the nutty adults are doing right now, the kids find a tribe or a mentor or a caring adult who help them navigate this world. And that's my personal responsibility to do as a mother and a grandmother, is to teach these things that took me 50, 60 years to learn to my grandsons, who are 6, 7, 9, 13, something like that. And they're totally open to the things I tell them. It's different, but they're totally open. And I show, so like when you were talking about the food thing, if you have not learned muscle testing, learn muscle testing. Your body is a very strong teacher about what it needs and wants you to put in it or on it when you learn correctly how to muscle test.
Right. I've heard of it. I mean, I have a holistic doctor, but chiropractor, that she has done muscle testing on me. And there are, I do it on myself occasionally too, but then I doubt myself, right? Sometimes. But yeah, I mean,
I can show you, at some time, not tonight necessarily, but I can show you at some time a way that you can very discreetly muscle test in the grocery store. I muscle test everything that goes in my grocery cart.
Really?
every piece of fruit, every brand, every loaf of bread, whatever, and it's 1 second to do. And I on another time, I'll
Right.
show you how to do that.
Wow, that would be awesome, because that would be cool. It's, and diet culture it's like a $2 billion industry or more, or trillion probably. And they want you to sell you all these weight loss products, but if we just did that, like the muscle testing, like you said, or even intuitively, uh, intuitively did that. Kimberly's like, do it now for the audience.
The thing is, I don't think, Kimberly, I'm sorry, I don't think that would be responsible for me to do, because it takes some explanation of why it works and how it works and how to experiment with it until you are comfortable as an individual with what it can show you, what it can teach you. Because if it's done flippantly now and it doesn't work, then people will dismiss it. And I don't want people to dismiss such a powerful tool.
Makes sense. But I mean, at least people know that there is something like that out there. And if they want to know, then they can just get a hold of Donna.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to show you and talk with you, about it later. So this is a perfect example of using my gut instinct, that as much as I would like to be, to share that, it's not appropriate. And that's a question I often ask myself. Is this appropriate now? And the other question that I always ask myself, is this mine to do? Is this mine to do? And yes or no.
That is true. We can get into that hamster wheel of even though you can, doesn't mean that you should.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think
that's why a lot of really ancient wisdom, deep, profound wisdom, has been ridiculed, because people have not taken the time to learn the science behind it, why things work, and why it's truth, and physics and all that kind of stuff. That it's when it's, I don't know, truth is truth, and whether we like it or not, truth is truth. Whether we accept it or not, truth is truth. Because before we could see ultraviolet, before we could see infrared, that doesn't mean those didn't exist. We just didn't have the tools.
Yes.
To see ultraviolet. We didn't have the tools yet to see infrared. And now they're commonly accepted, even though we can't see them. It's that kind of that same principle, that just because we don't have a human scientific, three-dimensional tool to measure it yet, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well, that is true. Just because you can't see God doesn't mean he's not there.
That's exactly. And you can't explain it.
It's funny, because I was at a relative's house this weekend, and we got it all into this religion and things like this, and spirituality versus religion, and at the end of the day, I said, and he was trying to understand how bad things can happen to good people, and if those bad things happen, does God still really exist? And so at the end of the day, like, I had God had given me like wisdom to give back to him at every instance, and so I was trying to teach him something, and God gave this analogy, and I said, you have a daughter, so if your daughter was to mess up, would you not still love her? Well, yeah. Would you agree that when she messed up, that was sin? Well, yeah. So it doesn't matter, sin is sin. So would you not forgive your daughter everything? Well, yeah. Well, that's just like God. God forgives everything. And so when I put it into layman's terms, he got it. And so hopefully it helped. I don't know. But, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. was the gist of that. So whether At first, I thought that the conversation with him was he didn't believe. And then at the end of the day, he did believe. It was just more of a spiritual thing instead of a religious thing. So
giving someone another way to look at it.
Yes.
That was the book I wrote a long time ago. That was one of the messages. There were two main messages in there. One, you were born worthy. And secondly, there was a male character in there, and he was repeatedly shown, my son, there is another way. And so I remember, because that book wrote itself, I was the tool for it. And so that is my message to every child, as well as adult, as you were born worthy. And there's another way. There is another way.
Absolutely. Wow, I can't believe that it's already been 45 minutes, Donna, and you thought that you'd have nothing to say. But now is the time that we bring up the amazing Kimberly Genovese, our amazing roving reporter. So welcome back, Kimberly.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
Good.
Great.
Good. Fantastic show.
Oh,
fantastic. Yeah, it's nice to be with someone that we run on parallel planes. Let's just put it that way. And so it's refreshing, to hear you sharing and everything that you're offering the audience tonight. So it's really beautiful, and it's perfectly timed as we're moving into this next transcendence for humanity. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. Donna, this is your opportunity now to share with everyone. And our fundamentals, right? We like to break it down into fun, capital F-U-N, little D-U-H, capital M-E-N-T-A-L-S, right? So what would you consider your three things, right? If this was your last conversation with humanity, that you would leave them with so that they can have joy in their journey and have their journey be light?
So the fun part would be in my day timer. I still use the old-fashioned written day timer. I have a Post-it note, and the Post-it note says, "What is the joy factor?" If I can't come up with a joyful reason to be putting something on my book, on my day, I don't do it.
Beautiful.
And it's a Post-it note that's been on there for probably 10 years, and I have to tape it on now because it doesn't stick by itself anymore. But if I'm vacillating back and forth on something, I'll flip to the front of the book and see that again. It's like, okay, what is the joy factor here? The joy factor. I mean, and it was the same, when Anka introduced us, Dorothy, that is okay. It was, there was no question. The fun factor was there, and the joy factor was there after listening to some of your podcasts, etc. And then let's see, the mental is that I do what I call wrapping the day, WRAPPING, the day. And that before I get up in the morning, first I say, this is a day thou hast made, I shall rejoice in it and be glad. And then the second thing that I say is, let me know thy peace, that I might be an instrument of it. And then I with that setting the stage, I say or declare three things I want to accomplish in the day. And it doesn't have to be work related. It might be that I finally call the dentist, that I do that extra page on the website, whatever the three things are, that I do it, that I will consider it a successful day. Then at the end of the day, I do list three things that I'm grateful for. They don't even have anything to do with what I said in the morning, because if I didn't get those three things done, I'm not going to go to bed mad at myself. What three good things happened today? 1, 2, 3, right? And then the third fundamental thing is, I believe every woman is a wise woman, and even wise women get stuck. And so that's when you go to the website, you'll see there's a wise woman stuck, page there. And I developed an archetype quiz, and it's free. So they can take the archetype quiz and see where wisdom, from archetypes about how you're stuck, how you show up when you're stuck, your hidden strengths, et cetera, et cetera. So that's very fun. So it's soulteaches.com/quiz if somebody wants to do that.
Beautiful. Way to round out the fundamentals. That was freaking awesome. And I love that you've got that, because to your point, I very much agree with you. Women, I dare say all humans, right, get stuck, right? It's part of the human condition. Women in specific, right? We tend to, right, be tending to, right, to such a degree that because we're in tending mode, we don't necessarily even know that we're stuck.
That's a big important point. That sometimes we know we're stuck. It's when you don't know you're stuck and why you're stuck and how you act when you're stuck that gets you in trouble.
Love it. I'm going to go take the test immediately.
It's fast. It's fun. Just be honest and don't try to outthink it. I tried to outthink it and I would get the same answer 2 or 3 times. Seriously, I designed the test and I tried to outthink it and I couldn't. It would go where
that's also very good answer. Well, we know our audience and we have pretty brilliant women that participate in this audience. So that's also good to know that it's a brilliant test that can surpass all brilliance. So don't even try, you ladies out there. And I'm assuming, Donna, you it is not just for women, or is it just for women?
This test it's specific female archetypes.
Okay, cool.
That doesn't mean men can't learn from it, because understand why their gal is stuck, or she doesn't want to be in a relationship anymore, or she has bad habits. Not bad habits, but
so here's a question: if the guys if the guys can't get their powerhouse women to take the test, could the guys take the test knowing how the women respond? Like, could they do it for their
No, I think that because then our personal prejudices come in. I would say that the archetypes theoretically they're not gender specific. I simply designed them that way so that when you see it, it's a female archetype.
Got it. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I didn't think you could surpass the actual show in the fundamentals, but I gotta say you did. So it's almost like you wrapped up the show inside the fundamentals as powerfully as you wrap up a day. And we're very privileged to have been able to have you here tonight.
It was very fun. You guys are great.
Absolutely.
The women out there are lucky to have you. And the men. Yeah. The men in your lives are lucky to have you.
And the kids and the animals and the trees.
And all of your lineage.
All of life, as I like to say. Because it's all connected, right? It's all connected.
Absolutely.
So, real privilege, Donna. It's a real honor and a real privilege.
Fun.
Dorothy, back to you.
All right, Donna. So where would be the best place for people to connect with you?
At soulteaches.com, there's a little box you can contact me, because I did a talk at a women's group this week and my business cards didn't come. I did 2 talks Saturday and I didn't have business cards for any of those things. And I found out that they came and the post office sent the cards back. Did return to sender and never notified me that, they weren't put in my box. So, I mean, again, God's sense of humor, I give up trying to figure out, but I'm sure there's something funny that there was a reason for that. I don't know. So anyway, the best way is on the website, because that will get to the right email.
Oh, that is awesome. And thank you for sharing that. And I just have to share a funny today. So I got a Christmas gift from a friend that lives in Florida today. And I'm in Canada. And so this is just an FYI for all my American friends and family out there. If you're going to send me something, put the amount of the value very little, because now I have to pay tariffs on everything that comes to my door. And I had to pay $50 for a free gift.
Gosh.
Oh, no.
So please just save it for when you see me.
Dorothy, could you have just said return to sender? Like, so it would have gone back to the person. Then they could have, like.
I don't know.
Oh.
That was my fifth today. So she's in Florida. I'm in Canada. And so they
I thought you said Guyana.
No,
whoa.
Florida.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
Funny, because that never happened. Wow. Like, she's been sending me stuff. We've both been sending stuff to each other. And that's never happened until this time. So thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, yeah.
But we won't go there. So yeah, if you send something to me, it's like a $2 value.
Even if it's not.
It's a $2 value.
That's a very good, wise, practical piece of advice you gave.
Very much so. Yeah.
That is
not just for you, but anyone who's sending anything to Canada. So
yeah, but when you're our 51st state, it won't matter. I'm kidding.
Well,
as a Canadian,
no, I'm kidding.
As a Canadian, I don't take offense to that, and I'm really not. You know, if you were to say that to some of my family members, they would be irate. Yeah. And then but some, they wouldn't. And you know what? I'm of the persuasion. I don't watch the news. I don't want to get caught up in it. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen anyways. And do I have any control over it? I've spent decades of my life being upset over stuff I can't control. So why? And I'm finally learning to just let it go. And so whatever happens will happen. I just know that for those Americans out there that thought our country was a three-ring circus when the COVID first hit, Trudeau is now gone. He's not in Parliament anymore. So you can rest assured that the clown is gone. So there was that. It's been fun. It's been fun. Politics, I don't really get into politics on the show because I could go for hours and it could be upsetting. But anyway, so yeah, I don't watch news. I don't watch any of that because if we become the 51st state, then fine. And if we don't, then fine too. The thing of it is, my great-grandmother was from Michigan, and I've been wanting to get my passport, my dual citizenship, but I can't because my grandfather didn't get his. So I can't get mine that way. So I said that this weekend at a family event, and they were like so upset with me for saying that I wanted to be a dual citizenship. I'm like, what's the problem? I just want to be able to cross and go at my leisure, at my will, and not have to be stopped. Because as of right now, I can't leave the country for more than 6 months. So if we become the 51st state, then who cares? Because then I wouldn't have to worry about the 6 months. So
6 months, 6 years.
That's right.
6 minutes.
6 minutes. Like, all that to say that, but yeah. I take no offense on it. Trust me.
Good.
Maybe,
but it's the whole point of the learning to listen to that inner voice, that inner guidance, so that we don't go wacky every time we turn on the TV or pick up a newspaper.
Yeah.
Or overhear a conversation we don't want to overhear. That we can
or scroll social media. And quit doing that.
To go into. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're right. Absolutely true. And that's why I'm finding my inner peace. So, anyways, well, thank you so much, Shauna, for joining us tonight. We love your wisdom. We are so excited to have you on here. We want to thank all of our guests or all of our listeners for listening in and tuning in. Please send all your questions in and we'll get them answered. And with that, be unstoppable in all that you do. And remember, same time, same channel next week. Bye.